Before I go on, let me just start from the get go. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you are kept up to date with what I have to say. And what am I going to talk about today? I am going to talk about Dave Rubin, the Rubin Report, Bernie Sanders. And this slipped by me. I don't know how the heck it slipped by me almost 2 months ago, but I think it's relevant because I, you know, because of the kind of person Dave Rubin evolved into, and I need to go and basically call out on his BS. On March 24th, Dave Rubin on his program, the Rubin Report, Trump ban, direct message, Rubin Report. What he had to say about Bernie Sanders, and so I'm going to basically discuss what he said about Bernie Sanders. So let's start out basically with let's go ahead and start out with Dave Rubin himself. Dave Rubin, as you know, is the host of the Rubin Report. He is a former quote unquote liberal that became, in my opinion, right now, he evolved over the years. Evolved for the worse, in my opinion. And he went from being a left wing liberal progressive type. His program, the Rubin Report, was affiliated with the Young Turks. Yes, right. Dave Rubin's boss was Cenk Uygur. So anyway, to make a long story short, Dave Rubin evolved from a left liberal progressive type to becoming basically kind of viewing himself as some sort of enlightened centrist to becoming a libertarian and then becoming kind of a libertarian for Donald Trump. And then he became, a full-blown Donald Trump supporter. He became a movement conservative. He basically politically went into the dark side, and I write him off officially as a neocon today. And I have no respect for Dave Rubin. I used to feel sorry for Dave Rubin when people used to make fun of him. People from the Young Turks would make fun of him. David Pakman would make fun of him. Kyle Kalinske would make fun of him. What's the name of that? Sam Cedar would make fun of him. And I was just like, for a few years, I was just like, yeah, y'all kind of tough on him. But no, Dave Rubin is a piece of crap. He is a piece of crap. He is a grifter. And he's, the fact that his his content on his program is so empty. The fact that he's got several million, I mean, what was it? I don't know. It's like 4 or 5 million subscribers on YouTube, and the fact that he's the biggest hypocrite you can imagine, because there he is, a gay man who joined the neoconservative movement, and he badmouthed red state and blue states all the time, and crap on California, and tells everybody how wonderful Texas is, and how wonderful the South is, and how wonderful all the flyover country states are. Not insulting people who live over flyover country. It's just I just trying to make a point, and he'll tell you how wonderful they are, and then he admitted that he doesn't move to those states because he's a gay man. And California, you live in California, you're gay, you got it made as far as being equal in society. Whereas if you go to a southern state or or a rural western state or what have you, um, it's not quite as positive an environment to be part of the LGBTQ community. He knows that. But anyway, suffice to say, Dave Rubin is he's a terrible person. He's a terrible person for how he grifted, and he's a terrible person for how he smears his political opponents. And I have no respect whatsoever for him. Now, as I said, he used to be on the left. As far back as 2015, I think that was the time the Rubin report parted ways with the Young Turks, and he went on his own. He was a Bernie Sanders supporter. I would argue that maybe during the early days of Dave Rubin, if that aspect of Dave Rubin was sincere, um, he was he would have probably still been an all right person. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, trying to be damn generous about this. So he spoke well of Bernie Sanders in 2015, and seemingly the first half of 2016, he was on board just like the Young Turks were with the Bernie Sanders campaign. And he did it in a way where he was kind of a liberal against PC culture, against identity politics, or what have you. Not very. That's not very surprising, and there's a lot of people that fit that mold on the left even to this day. Yeah, as I said, in a lot of ways, people like Kyle Kalinske and people like Shoe on Head. I would say that people like Jimmy Dore, Glenn Greenwald, all of these people seem to take a anti-PC, anti-ID poll view while being on the left. The Amazing Atheist is most well known for that as well. So, I mean, these people, he sort of was part of that club still around that time, but the grift happened like around the time Hillary Clinton got the nomination. And when Hillary Clinton got the nomination, he went from being a lefty type that was kind of like, PC is a little silly these days, to being a libertarian for Gary Johnson, and he could not stomach the idea of voting for either Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. A position I understand and kind of and identify with. For me, I voted for Jill Stein of the Green Party. He voted for Gary Johnston. So he went in that libertarian direction, and it's not exactly my point of view as far as libertarianism is concerned. I respect libertarians generally, but I do not like their economics. And the fact that he couldn't stomach Clinton Trump is a position I respect. In other words, I get it. I get it. But then he went from being a liberal leaning libertarian to being a kind of a liberal leaning libertarian for Trump for the year 2020. I mean, he was indicating that he was softening up to Donald Trump. And then over the time in the last year and a half, he pretty much discarded much of his left liberalism that he had, even within his libertarian outlook. And so, saying things like, just some of the things he was advocating, it was just like a slightly more liberal version of what you hear on standard conservative talk radio, what have you. And how much of a low self-esteem he must have to allow someone like Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder to walk all over him, having them on this show and seemingly want to be friends with them, and they don't want to acknowledge him because he's gay. I mean, they felt compelled to be on his show, but they don't. They basically told him in his face that they don't have any use for him as a human being. And so, part of me kind of feels sorry for him in that regard. But then again, he's a wealthy asshole, and at this point, and why should the hell that be? he made his bed, he might as well lie in it in that regard. Anyway, as he moved away from left liberalism, he ended up, as I said, palling around with Ben Shapiro, and Steven Crowder, and Glenn Beck, and Dennis Prager, Candance Owens, and of course, the loathsome, repulsive Mark Levin, one of the worst people on talk radio. But what's happened recently with he actually ended up turning against Bernie Sanders very early on, and it was more like he supported Bernie Sanders 2015, early 2016. Then as he went through this libertarian phase, and he was just kind of like, well, I like Bernie, but I don't know about some of his followers and everything. And then I realized he was a complete piece of shit when he said later on he went from I voted for Gary Johnson as a choice between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. As I said previously, I respect that position, even though it's not fully what I would go along with. But for me, I went with Jill Stein. But Dave Rubin went from that position to, now in retrospect, if I think I would have voted for Trump if would have been between Sanders and Trump. And I'm thinking, you're my enemy at this point. Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, not, I respect hating those two candidates, but if you're going to go and choose you're going to choose Donald Trump over Bernie Sanders? Are you kidding me? Dave Rubin, are you kidding me? I mean, yeah, and his anti-socialism rant just gets on my nerves. And to hear Dave Rubin when he discusses socialism, he doesn't even fully understand what it is because even in his progressive days when he claimed he was for single payer and people ask him about it, the way he described it as he was going through his evolution, he said, "Well, I would go and basically have a system where you buy private health insurance." And so basically he was describing Obamacare, which a lot of his fellow movement conservatives, are against, supposedly. Remember, these clowns were affiliated with the orbit around the Heritage Foundation, which came up with the idea of Obamacare, but it wasn't called Obamacare. It was originally called Romney Care. So, someone like him, he's a joke. He's a damn joke. So, with the insurrection the insurrection that took place on January 6th, and the diet coup, as it is called by some, and other people act like it was like a terrorist attack to violent overthrow the U.S. government, what have you. No, these were clowns that engage in this silly attempt to take over Congress. But anyway, as a result, Donald Trump was given the internet death penalty from social media, essentially, and so Bernie Sanders was interviewed about the fact that about the Trump ban on Twitter. And I'm going to give you from the March 24th Rubin report what he had to say about this. And so and I'm going to share you my thoughts on it. And I will put the link below in a few minutes when I'm done with this commentary, so you can actually watch the silly Dave Rubin do his thing. Here we go. This is Dave Rubin discussing Bernie Sanders, Twitter, and Trump.
It's going to be a tough one to swallow, but I'm going to do it. Bernie Sanders kind of got something right just in the last few days. And I'm going to get to it in a moment, but sure, he got it wrong before that. He's going to kind of get it wrong going forward. But I'm going to do the best I can as an impartial arbiter of the truth here at the Rubin Report to give Bernie Sanders a little bit of credit. So Bernie Sanders did an interview with Ezra Klein in the New York Times. Now, Ezra Klein is either the CEO or COO. Can we get what he is of Vox? He's basically in charge of Vox. I don't particularly like or respect Ezra Klein, he's gone after me a couple times.
Poor baby.
He's sort of in the woke world, and Vox is just absolute trash. But in any event, Bernie Sanders was interviewed by Ezra. He's the editor at large, thank you, and the founder of Vox. We get information on the fly here. But Bernie was interviewed by Mr. Ezra Klein in the New York Times, and he said this, and I'm going to give credit where it's due. He said, look, should I do this in Bernie voice? Look, you have a racist, sexist, xenophobe, pathological liar, and authoritarian, a bad news guy, Sanders said. But if you're asking me, do I feel particularly comfortable that the President of the United States could not express his views on Twitter? I don't feel comfortable about that. Social media shouldn't serve as a platform for authoritarian purposes and insurrection. And if anybody who thinks yesterday it was Donald Trump who was banned and tomorrow it could be somebody else who has a very different point of view. All right, so you get it. So just in the last few days, Bernie Sanders is basically saying that big tech shouldn't have the power to deperson people, that big tech shouldn't have the power to just mass ban people. And as you all know, after the events of the Capitol on January 6th, big tech performed a digital assassination of Donald Trump. They took him off Twitter and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest and Spotify and everywhere else. And now, 2 months later, Bernie Sanders is actually kind of getting it right.
Okay, all right. This is going to be the closest thing you're going to hear me say in the year 2021, May the 18th, being a compliment to Dave Rubin. A left-handed compliment, but a compliment just the same. I am glad that he acknowledged something about Bernie Sanders being a First Amendment supporter. Don't like Donald Trump. I don't care about Donald Trump. I would never support Donald Trump. Do I think that his Twitter account should have been terminated, and should he have gotten the social media death penalty all throughout the internet? As a First Amendment absolutist, I say no. I am uncomfortable with it. I stand with Bernie Sanders on the issue of the First Amendment. He should not be surprised about Bernie Sanders' position on this. Bernie Sanders has been consistent, always a supporter of the First Amendment. I do not know where the hell people get the idea that Bernie Sanders wants to silence political opponents. He's anytime the subject of free expression, the First Amendment comes along, Bernie Sanders has always been consistent. Going back to the days in the 1980s when he was the mayor of Burlington, Vermont, you know, the right wing who wants to cry about cancel culture? Well, there was a time where in medium-sized cities or even some large cities that the LGBTQ community could not have a pride march. That they could not have a pride march because homophobia was so toxic at one time that people felt compelled. Yeah. Oh no, we can't have these people marching for their equal rights. Well, Bernie Sanders said, yes, you can. So in Burlington, Vermont, I believe it was 1985, they wanted to go and do a pride march. And Bernie Sanders, under First Amendment grounds, supported that. Now, Dave Rubin, you want to sit around and hobnob around with Ben Shapiro? Ben Shapiro thinks you're icky because you're married to a dude. Bernie Sanders was fighting for your rights. I think you owe Bernie Sanders an apology. So, I mean, what the hell? Why the hell would he be surprised that Bernie Sanders support free speech? It's very much a part of what Bernie Sanders is. Okay, he went. So he went from actually saying something positive about Bernie Sanders and being befuddled by it. He shouldn't be. To going around and spoiling it with this shit. Here we go.
A little odd because, you know, Bernie Sanders, all his policies are very authoritarian, right? His policies are always giving more power to the government to do whatever the government wants. Now, he thinks it'll do apparently only good things if he's in charge. But what I always say is you want a government with so little power, it can't do that much good and it can't do that much bad. That's the trade-off that you get in a free society. But that being said.
Okay. All right. Now, what he just said there, he basically accused Bernie Sanders of being an authoritarian. And Bernie Sanders is not an authoritarian. Even during this libertarian phase that Dave Rubin was going through, I can guarantee you that in some fundamental ways, Bernie Sanders is more of a libertarian than Dave Rubin ever could be. Not on economics, because libertarian economics stink. Libertarian economics stink to high hell. But social libertarianism, civil libertarianism, is at the core values of what it means to be a democratic socialist, to be a social democrat, to be a socialist. It is, if you are a democratic socialist, you are, in fact, a civil libertarian. You think that the state should intervene in the economy to make sure that there's no exploitation taking place economically. But as far as your personhood is concerned, your individuality, you have a right to be who you are, and the state will not micromanage your life. This is at the core of what it means to be a democratic socialist. Now, some conservatives, you tell them that, they don't get it. They don't get it. The socialists, we founded the American Civil Liberties Union. It was called the National Civil Liberties Bureau initially during the end of World War I to go and to represent anti-war voices, whether they're on the left or there were religious groups or what have you, people who were opposed to the war, a Great War in Europe due to their anti-war beliefs. ACLU came there to protect their First Amendment rights and expanded it and renamed themselves the American Civil Liberties Union and existed to this day, the ACLU, as the ACLU, 121 years old this year as the ACLU, or 120, or 123 years old if you want, excuse me, 100, no, 100, 101 years old, 101 years old as the ACLU, or 103 years old if you want to consider 1918 as the starting point of the ACLU as the National Civil Liberties Bureau. But suffice to say, nobody should be surprised where Bernie Sanders is, where he will be on these issues. And as I said, what Dave Rubin did is, I mean, he's a smear merchant. I mean, he's a polite smear merchant, but a smear merchant just the same. Yeah, he's not toxic as far as being like Ben Shapiro, who, just Ben Shapiro, just that squeaky voice of Ben Shapiro, just it's like nails on a chalkboard. It really is. But the fact that Dave Rubin, when he almost gets it, he ruins it, going on elaborating further to try to go and crap on Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is what we needed in the year 2016. We need him. We needed him in 2020. And I'm gonna tell you, if Bernie Sanders, and I may have become more disappointed with Bernie Sanders in some ways this second time round, if he were to run again in 2024, you could take this to the bank that I've said this right now. If he was to run into the year 2024, I would gladly support him once again. But anyhow, anyway, let me just sum up Dave Rubin. He's a joke. He's basically that. If you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you disagree, well, that's fine. You can comment anyway. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you that if you got a platform, please utilize it, express yourselves, because we're the muckrakers of our time. And most importantly, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. And until next time, I am American Social Democracy. Peace. Class struggle yesterday, class struggle today, class struggle tomorrow, and class struggle until we achieve full economic and social justice for all. And that means supporting Bernie Sanders and pretty much discrediting a lot of the crap that comes out of Dave Rubin's mouth.